Unscripted.
It was a very interesting weekend, to say the least, when it comes to video games. We had some interesting stuff come out, which usually doesn't happen during weekend times, and I found this to be very, very fun, and a lot of people are talking about it, obviously. If you're an Xbox fan, I think that you're probably either thinking that this is a kind of a good thing, or maybe you're thinking possibly it's a bit of a bad thing. I guess it really kind of depends on where you stand in particular. But for me personally, I find it to be almost kind of a slap in the face that this is like where we're at in 2021, as an Xbox fan, that this is sort of what we're getting from Microsoft themselves. So what happened was there's court documents that leaked, and they revealed Xbox's own internal Last of Us 2 review. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like it's something that they are striving for, or maybe just now striving for, when maybe they should have been doing that years and years ago. It is very interesting. It's super fascinating to see exactly what's going on. But their leaked internal review calls The Last of Us 2 significantly ahead of anything on console and PC. While The Last of Us 2 fared very well critically, it looks like even Sony's main rival, Microsoft, reviewed the game as well, and thought very highly of it. In an internal Microsoft document called as an executive portfolio update, which was made public due to the Apple versus Epic Games lawsuit, Microsoft's internal review of The Last of Us 2 called it significantly ahead of anything on consoles and PC. Here's one excerpt right here. The visual quality and attention to detail in The Last of Us 2 is absolutely best in class. Basically, in every area, and overall presentation is significantly ahead of anything that other teams have been producing on console and PC. We were frequently stunned by the quality of the game's visuals, something that sadly seldom happens these days. It's even more impressive considering that the game features two separate playable characters with different groups of allies in different locations, along with flashback sequences taking place years before. It features a shockingly wide variety of environments, weather, and the day cycles and location ranging from Wyoming to California. Obviously, the company reviewing the competitor's product might not be something new, but it is very interesting to see Microsoft is sort of out there kind of doing this. But it just kind of blows my mind away that Microsoft is basically saying, hey, this is something that we probably won't even be able to do. And I just thought that was incredibly interesting. So, again, including with several documents, Microsoft has requested to be sealed by the court in their internal review, which praises the Naughty Dog game as something Xbox should aspire to in terms of visuals and stories. The Xbox review states that The Last of Us 2 sets a new bar for and I quote, what we should hope to be able to achieve going forward into a new generation of consoles. It says The Last of Us Part 2 is the exceedingly rare video game where what it accomplishes is moving forward the art of narrative storytelling in video games as a medium to ultimately outweigh whether or not everybody likes it or even has fun playing it, which is very interesting as well, the way that they kind of talk this game up. The internal appraisal reserved its strongest praise for The Last of Us Part 2's visuals. Obviously, the visual quality and attention is best in class. They were stunned by the quality. The verdict goes on to highlight the game's narrative-driven walking simulator chapters, quote-unquote. While these may not be what many gamers are expecting, they are exceptionally well done and really show what other games, especially pure narrative-driven adventure games, should be aspiring for these days. So again, they're really out there praising Sony and Naughty Dog for what they've been able to do. That the player doesn't have the ability to greatly influence or determine the outcome of the narrative might prove a little bit troublesome to some players. However, we would argue that not every video game is about the player roleplay their character's story. The medium of entertainment activity also needs games that drive stories where you are participating in more of the capacity of an active observer, just like other mediums of entertainment. Otherwise, we're going to be locked into a limited number of stories to tell. The internal review reserves its only criticism for combat, which it says improves on the original, but is still subpar. Naughty Dog still can't seem to make a decent gun combat in any of their games, and this is no exception. Luckily for them, it fits in with the game's overall theme and pushes the player towards using stealth over head-on. So again, they had the one criticism about the gunplay, which I disagree. I think it was so much better in The Last of Us 2 than it was in the first game, which I thought was incredibly lackluster. But again, this is just one of those things where they're saying, hey, they're blown away by it. That means that they aren't really doing anything like this, and I think that could be something that we see as fans and just go, well, that's a weird thing, like, honestly, if you think about that for a second, and I ask that you guys do, like, they're so enthralled with this Last of Us 2 game, then they must not be doing anything of equal or even close to of their own, right? Otherwise, they would be like, oh, well, we've seen something like that before, or, our own stuff isn't so bad. But the fact that they're saying, hey, maybe we can accomplish what Naughty Dog did with the PS4 with our next-gen system, I think that really says a lot about what Naughty Dog's capable of and what Naughty Dog's out here accomplishing, just from a certain technical standpoint and all that kind of stuff. The people that were talking about crunch and, this kind of stuff, realistically, look where we're at right now, right? Look where we're at. We're at a point where you still have a base PS4 playing Uncharted 4 or God of War from 2018 or Spider-Man or The Last of Us 2 or Ghost of Tsushima looking better than anything on Microsoft's 12 T-flop monster. And I think that really goes to show that they have some of the best, the absolute best when it comes to, developers and when it comes to being able to see what people kind of want and deliver what people want. And I think that's incredibly important across the board. I just really think that they've really gone out of their way and done a fantastic job with giving people exactly kind of what they want. And, I really do feel like that this right here is a little bit, like I said, why I think it's a little bit of a slap in the face to Xbox gamers is simply because it does sound incredibly a lot like, it's just one of those things where they've kind of given up to the fact that, they could strive for something like this, but they probably won't reach this level of, accuracy with how these things are going. So I personally find it to be fascinating, and I love seeing that this kind of came out. Now, of course, you had a lot of the Xbox fans themselves kind of say that, oh, they didn't believe this and they thought it was, BS or whatever. I think that it was 100% accurate, obviously. These are documents that came out for a reason because of the Epic Games things, and that's where Microsoft is in there as well. So, we do have a lot of this kind of stuff to kind of look at and base this on. And, I think that it's safe to say that Naughty Dog are probably the top developers, or maybe you can make a case for them and Rockstar. But I think overall, Sony just has like the top 3 or 4 or 5 developers right now, and I think that that's really what sort of separates Sony from Microsoft at this point. Like the games, obviously, the exclusives, obviously, but the talent, and a lot of the talent is even going back to Sony studios and different studios like that after initially leaving. So they're finding it probably stuff maybe a little bit too laid back on the Microsoft side. If you look at stuff, Microsoft doesn't believe in quote-unquote crunch. So, again, to do anything, I think, worthwhile, I think you need to have some kind of crunch, some kind of something out there to, get people excited and to get, to get the absolutely best out of people. And people work best under a little bit of, stress. And that's something that I think that that Sony does well. And it's proven that. Obviously, with The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Demon Souls, like they really got a handle on this whole exclusive situation. And I got to say, this doesn't necessarily surprise me, but it does sort of, shock me a little bit to see that Microsoft is just so enamored with this from Sony. They're like main chief competitor. So it is odd, it is strange. I can link this in the description below so you all can check that out and let me know what you think. I find it to be fascinating. It's a really good read. You know, it's very interesting that something like this would actually leak out. But yeah, very cool stuff. Very, very cool. And I think you guys are going to like reading it and checking it out. When you do, please let me know what you think. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. I really do appreciate everybody that comes out and watches. I'm Crapgamer. This has been Crapgamer Reviews. Rack 'em up. Crapgamer out.
Unscripted.